huge fight over sports and I guess education and I guess the whole way our society views itself. This out of my old home, Gomorrah by the Sea, Los Angeles. I was just back there to do some shoots for my PragerU book club show. And before I left for California, there was a big hubbub because there's a pro-drag group that is very anti-Christian, specifically anti-Catholic, but broadly very sacrilegious. It's called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And this group exists to mock Christianity, mock religious orders, mock our Lord, and mock virtue and pervert all of it into sin and make fun of religious people. Okay, so they were going to be honored at Dodger Stadium as part of Pride Month festivities in the middle of June. And there was naturally an outcry over this. This was extremely offensive. And so then the LA Dodgers said, okay, we're not going to invite this degenerate group to the middle of the stadium to honor them in the middle of June. And then there was an outcry from the pro-LGBT group. And so the Dodgers have come back and they said, okay, we're reinviting the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. After much thoughtful feedback from our diverse communities, honest conversations within the LA Dodgers organization, and generous discussions with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, the LA Dodgers would like to offer our sincerest apologies to the sisters, members of the LGBTQ plus community, and their friends and families. We've asked the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to take their place on the field at our 10th annual LGBTQ Pride Night on June 16th. We're pleased to share that they've agreed to receive the gratitude of our collective communities, wait for this, for the life-saving work that they have done tirelessly for decades. Life-saving work. So jiggling around for drunk, drug-addled weirdos, that's life-saving work. Mocking Christianity and engaging in extremely perverse burlesques and cabaret acts. That is life-saving work. Meanwhile, you've got actual Catholic nuns who are literally saving people's lives, taking care of little babies, taking care of the elderly, taking care of the sick. They're never going to get their night at Dodger Stadium. Not going to happen. But the weird sex troupe that mocks those nuns, they get honored for their life-saving work. And then you got the Dodgers logo there in the rainbow flag. The rainbow flag, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the most dangerous hate symbol in the country. You hear all about all these hate symbols, you know. These are very offensive symbols. We've got to run away from the hate symbols. To me, nothing tells me that you are on the wrong side of things quite like that pride flag. The pride flag represents pride. It's the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins, and now these maniacs are honoring a group of anti-Catholic, anti-religious perverts. Now, what's the takeaway from this? Well, I guess the takeaway is that the LA Dodgers have become L-gay Dodgers, am I right? But if I had to find any deeper meaning in all of this, the meaning is this. The Dodgers have to pick between actual religious sisters and the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, these dudes jiggling around, making fun of Christ. They have to choose one of those things. Because if they invite this drag troupe, they're going to offend the Christians. If they disinvite the drag troupe, they're going to offend the sexual revolutionaries and the libs. They have to pick one. And the Dodgers said, okay, we're going to offend the Christians. Who cares about the Christians? We don't like the Christians. So we're going to side with the sexual revolutionaries and all the libs. In the short term, they probably made the right choice because that is where the powerful people in our culture are. That's the camp that they reside in. So they say, okay, we're going to pick the politically correct one. We're going to pick the side of ESG. We're going to pick the side of the liberal establishment. We're going to pick the side of the media and the colleges and all the rest of it. In the long run, I think they picked the wrong side. In the, let's say, eternal run, I think they definitely picked the wrong side here. But they do have to pick a side. And the squishes who want to say, well, we'll just be neutral about all this. You can't be neutral. Either the sacrilegious drag queens get invited to the baseball stadium, the public place, this central public place built in part with taxpayer money for the sports and the games, which always have a patriotic public role in any society. Either the drag queens get invited to the center of the field or they don't. either the Christians get to set the norms or the weirdos get to set the norms. There are lots of different kinds of weirdos, but in particular the lib sexual revolutionary weirdos. But someone's going to set them. Somebody is going to set them. I would rather it be the people who are in favor of the good, the true, and the beautiful, but that's not the way the culture is looking right now. You want to simplify your culture? Do you want to simplify your business finances? Well, you got to check out Ramp. Right now, go to ramp.com/Knowles. Are you looking for a better way to simplify your business finances across expenses, vendor payments, and accounting? If so, Ramp could be a complete game changer for your business. Ramp is a corporate card and expense management software designed to help you save time and money. With Ramp, you can issue cards to every employee with limits and restrictions and automate expense reporting so you can stop wasting time at the end of every month. Ramp's accounting software automatically collects receipts and categorizes your expenses in real time so you don't have to. The time you'll save each month on employee expenses will allow you to close your books 8 times faster. Businesses that use Ramp save an average of 3.5% within the first year. Ramp is easy to use. You get started in less than 15 minutes, whether you have 5 employees or 5,000. Right now, at $250 when you join Ramp. Go to ramp.com/Knowles, ramp.com/Knowles, Knowles. Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. I came across a video of a therapist. This is a 15-year veteran therapist. She's been in the job for a long time. She's very clearly a lib. And she gave one of the most precise and insightful definitions of wokeness, a word that has eluded definition in certain quarters, that I have ever heard.
It's only really over the past 6 or 7 months that I've understood my racial identity and begun to really deconstruct it personally and from within, and understanding that in terms of the psychology of white folks who are my people. I grew up in Seattle, very liberal whiteness environment, and that is, I'm in that environment still. So, and I work as a therapist. I've been working as a therapist for about 15 years. So I really see this as a healing journey, and to me, really the only real spiritual path of meaning available to white folks. So, There
it is. Wokeness, she says, is the only real spiritual path of meaning available to white folks. That is how they view wokeness, by which they mean a particularly virulent form of leftist politics. And that is true. It's not literally true, but that perception is accurate to them. That's how they are perceiving this thing. This is why the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have to be allowed to mock Christianity at Dodger Stadium, because the libs have foreclosed the possibility that Christianity is a path of spiritual meaning, that God is a path of spiritual meaning, that a relationship with our Maker and our Savior will give us spiritual meaning. That is foreclosed to them. The concept of original sin, they have rejected that. They don't believe that. They do recognize that sin and death pervade the world, which are the consequences of original sin. So how do they make sense of that? The way that they try to make sense of that is by saying that this is not a consequence of original sin, but it's a consequence of institutional sin, that over the years, man-made traditions and institutions have built up, and they have oppressed people and they've kept people down. Now, a logical question for this in response would be, okay, well, how did those institutions and practices and traditions get corrupted in the first place? They don't answer that part. But there are many people who believe that. There are many people who even say that they're on the right. There are some people who even say that they're Christian, who are very anti-institutional, very anti-tradition, very anti-ritual. They partake to some degree of this same skepticism of, and frankly, disdain for tradition, institution, history, the weight of practice, the democracy of the dead that has been built up, our whole culture, our whole civilization. And so for the libs, in despair, they say, okay, God isn't real, Christianity isn't true, I probably don't even have a soul, nothing seems to have meaning at all. And so the only way that I can impose some sort of meaning on my life is through what is most perceptible to me, which is my flesh, my skin color. By orienting my entire moral view around just flesh and just literally the color of my meat, of my flesh, that will give me some kind of spiritual meaning. Obviously, it is not going to work, but that's how they view it. That's why they've got to allow the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to jiggle around the stadium. They believe that the real sisters, the real religious sisters, the Carmelites, the nuns, that they are the threat, because what they represent is a restriction on individual autonomy, which is evil, it comes from the devil. That's the sin, the institutional sin we've got to fight back against. And so the sacrilegious character of the Sister of Perpetual Indulgence's performance, that's not a bug of their troupe. That's a feature. That's the whole point. That's why they have to be exalted at Dodger Stadium. Because the alternative would be, okay, we boot out these weird jiggling trannies and we allow the religious nuns to come in and, I don't know, say a prayer or a benediction before the baseball game. But then to do that would be to say, okay, well, Christianity is true, traditional religion is true, and this woke false religion, that's false, and we're going to suppress that from the public square because that way lies madness, that way lies true oppression, spiritual oppression, that way lies decay and decadence and degradation. And you got to pick one. You can't simultaneously have them both. I'm glad you liked that clip. Now, I need you to subscribe, ring that bell, get all the notifications for the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. See you next time.